You are a Sagittarius. And lately, your soul keeps whispering that something isn't right. You feel exhausted, even though you haven't done anything too demanding. You feel watched, even though no one is there. You can't sleep, your heart races, and there's a sense that something unseen is lurking. This isn't your imagination, it's your soul speaking in the language of light. Because Archangel Michael, the protector, is warning you that someone is silently working against you, and your soul is being protected in a very special way. In this video, created just for Sagittarius, I will reveal who is standing against you and why God has chosen you to rise at this very moment. But there is one thing most people overlook. The first signs Michael sends don't come in storms. They arrive in silence. Only when you are still enough, honest enough, do you begin to realize he has always been there and has tried many times to warn you. And that is when the real story begins. Sometimes the soul knows even before the heart begins to tremble. You don't need anyone to tell you something is wrong. You feel it. In the air. In someone's gaze when they walk into a room. In the silence between two heartbeats. It doesn't take shape, but it's there. Like a shadow with no body. Like a question with no answer. Like a background song quietly playing behind a closed door. And if lately you find yourself waking up at 3:33 a.m., or your clock suddenly stops at an unusual moment, or you walk into a familiar room and it feels foreign, like you've never been there before, don't brush it off, because that may be the moment when Archangel Michael, the Archangel of light and protection, is knocking at the door of your soul. No one can fake intuition. It is the one thing that deceit cannot touch. Some call it a gut feeling. Some call it the sixth sense. To me, it's the way divine beings choose to speak to you when all traditional channels have been sealed. Michael doesn't enter your life like a guest. He steps in like a soldier, silent, unwavering, needing no introduction. He is there, at the exact moment when you feel like you can't stand anymore. In that moment, you begin to wonder, am I just imagining this? And when you start to feel cold, not on your skin, but in your soul, that is when his light is touching the place still wrapped in shadows. Remember, those born under Sagittarius, especially when the Sun and Mercury align, often receive messages from the universe earlier than others. Not because you're more special, but because you are called to awaken sooner. You cannot walk blindly when your mission is to guide others. So you must see. You must feel. You must know, even if it hurts. A lone bird, circling your window like a messenger from the invisible realm. You might hear a whisper when no one else is there. You might feel as if someone is watching you through a mirror, even though you know you're alone in the room. You are not losing your mind, you are being warned. Michael doesn't send loud signs, he speaks through repetition, through coincidence, through intuition you can't explain. And when he is present, the air changes, time thickens, and your heart no longer beats the same rhythm. Michael is not a god. He is the one who stands between you and what seeks to harm you. He is the sword hidden beneath the quiet robe. He is the arm reaching out when no one else dares to stand beside you. But for him to act, you must agree. You must believe. You must step out of the haze of doubt and into the light of knowing. And if you've recently experienced something strange, if you've ever asked yourself, am I being watched? If you've ever felt your mind being pulled down for no reason at all, write it down. Leave just one sentence under this video as a quiet declaration. I am listening. Because when you begin to listen, you begin to be protected. And if you are watching this video at the exact right moment, this is not coincidence. How many times have you already been warned but brushed it off? Don't be the one who misses the sign again, because this time, it could be the final sign before everything breaks open. But when the light arrives, it doesn't just illuminate the path, it also reveals what was hiding in the dark. And that is when you must face the truth your intuition has been whispering all along. Not everyone is on your side. Not every kind of exhaustion comes from within. Someone has been quietly pulling you down, bit by bit, deliberately. There is a kind of wound that leaves no bruise. No one sees it, no one speaks of it, no one names it. But it lingers each day, like a cut on the bottom of your foot. Small, but aching with every step you take. And the worst part is, it comes from someone you once believed was safe. Have you ever known someone who always seemed so concerned for you? They ask how you're doing in a soft voice. They say they worry about you so much, but then they whisper to others about your instability, about your questionable choices, about how maybe you need help and shouldn't be trusted. They don't attack with knives. They use words polished in care. They use purposeful silence to make you second-guess yourself. They offer hugs lined with thorns, soft enough that you don't flinch, sharp enough to leave a mark. That's not care. That's manipulation. A quiet manipulation wrapped in a disguise of kindness. And then, some people choose a different approach. They say nothing. They just sit there with sad eyes and slumped shoulders, as if the entire weight of the world is on them. You feel guilty, even though you've done nothing wrong. You begin to adjust yourself, shrink yourself, give up things that bring you joy, just so they can feel better. You stop sharing your good news, you stop celebrating your victories, because you're afraid it might hurt them. And you don't even realize that this is how they control you. Not with commands, but with the role of the victim. People like this make you feel guilty, just for living in your truth. In middle age, pain doesn't come from blows anymore. It comes from the ones we once trusted most. They don't harm you with raised voices. They just make you feel like you don't deserve anything good. And then, some people aren't even beside you anymore. An ex-lover, someone who's walked out of your life, at least from the physical world. But they never released your energy. You still see them in your dreams, and it's always the kind of dream that leaves you exhausted when you wake. You still feel a silent pull, even though you've forgiven, healed, and let go. You still hear their name somewhere, still feel that a part of you isn't fully free. These are invisible threads, fine strands stretching from old grief into the present, quietly anchoring your soul to the past. They don't show up in your daily to-do list, but they can make you sluggish, confused, and breathless. Some people, because they can't accept your freedom, keep holding on to you with old energy, with pity, with prayers that go in reverse. And if they dive deeper into toxic spiritual practices, what they send to you might be a form of unseen binding, something that keeps you from flying, even though your wings are still whole. If you feel drained though you've done nothing, if you feel like someone else in your own body, maybe someone is draining your energy day by day and you don't even know it. They don't need to be present in your life. All it takes is a little bitterness, a little envy, a single sigh laced with misaligned intent to create a distorted current, a pullback to the past, a slowing down you can't quite name. And then you begin to doubt yourself. You think, am I being weak? Am I overthinking? But no, you are simply feeling the truth, because your soul is the first to know. And Archangel Michael is the only one brave enough to step into a battle you cannot see. He sees it all. He knows every dagger disguised as a glance, every invisible thread tangled around your feet, every unspoken curse that's already been sent in silence. And by the time you hear these words, that battle may have already begun. But there's one thing they'll never expect: that you are not the one who will remain silent forever. You didn't come here to suffer, to be manipulated, or to repeat the same spiral your ancestors endured, because you were chosen. And now is the time to remember why your soul is so strong. Not everyone knows they're living in a loop, and fewer still have the courage to break it. But you've always had that strange feeling that something in your family, your story, your relationships keeps repeating and repeating and repeating, like a record with a scratch. This person hurt you, just like the last. This goodbye happened, just like the others. You forgave and got hurt again and forgave again, as if the universe is rewriting a tragedy with no final scene. And then you ask, why do I always attract the same kind of person? Why, even after I've left, am I still pulled back into the past? Why is my exhaustion not from work, but from invisible ties I can't name? That's not weakness. It's the sign of a soul remembering a vow it once made, long before it was born. You were not born to suffer. You were born to end it, to end a cycle that has gone on too long and has rooted itself deep into your bloodline. You sense what's wrong, not because you're negative, but because you are the only one in your soul line with eyes bright enough to see the cracks. You are the last, but also the first. You came after, but you are the one who will walk ahead. They taught you to be silent. You learned to speak. They told you to endure. You learned to walk away. They buried pain beneath performance. You took off the mask and named the wound with truth. You're not rebelling against tradition. You're breaking the chains that were painted gold and passed off as heritage. And that is not easy, because there are mornings you wake not knowing what you still believe in. There are nights you hear yourself speaking kindness even to those who once crushed your spirit. There are moments you long to be cruel, just so you won't be taken advantage of again. But you don't, because inside you, there is something ancient, something powerful, something awake. That part of you refuses to let you give up. You are the bearer of light, even while walking through darkness. And so, even if no one pins a medal on your chest, even if no one builds a statue, even if no one claps for you, you are still seen by Archangel Michael. He does not choose the agreeable. He does not walk with those who long to be liked. He stands beside the one who dares to do what is right, even at the cost of being misunderstood by the world. So if you feel yourself being set apart, misread, stripped of things that once meant everything, understand this. It is not punishment. It is a baptism for a sacred mission. You are being carved. You are being purified. You are becoming the first in your timeline, the first to say enough. The first to say, I will not carry this pain any further. The first to say, I choose differently. You were not chosen because you're perfect. You were chosen because you do not run. And if you've read this far, this is not a coincidence. The universe does not need you to be the strongest. It needs you to be the most honest, even if that means you will be the most alone. But you are not alone on this journey, because the moment you say, I choose differently, the skies begin to shift. Something from the unseen starts to move, quietly, without spectacle, but undeniably. And if you pay close attention, you'll begin to notice some things you thought were losses were actually removals, because Archangel Michael has already begun to act on your behalf in ways your earthly eyes cannot yet see. Some things didn't happen because you decided them, but because you were being protected. Lately, someone may have walked away from you with no clear explanation. A job opportunity that felt certain suddenly closed. A relationship you believed would last fell into silence as if it never existed. If you only look with the physical eye, you might think you are losing. But with the eyes of your soul, you will see. This is how Michael is rewriting your fate. He does not take. He removes. He does not wound. He protects you by letting you hurt once instead of a lifetime. Michael doesn't need you to understand his entire plan. He only needs you to be brave enough not to return to what once suffocated your soul. And strangely, when Archangel Michael acts, everything happens quietly. There is no thunder. It's just one day you wake up and realize you no longer belong to the place you once called home. It's just someone you once loved suddenly no longer resonates with your soul's conversation. It's just a door that no longer opens, even though you still hold the key. He doesn't send storms. He changes the direction of the wind. He doesn't drag you away. He gently untangles the threads that were holding you back. You might call it coincidence. You might think you're simply unlucky. But if you look deeper, you'll begin to see a pattern being rewritten. A pattern where you are no longer required to sacrifice in order to be loved. No longer have to dim your light to make others comfortable. No longer have to apologize for living in your truth. Michael doesn't clear the road to make it easier. He clears the wrong turns so you won't get lost. Have you noticed? The one who used to manipulate you suddenly disappears from your life. The one who hurt you suddenly faces consequences only they can carry. And you, though still aching, feel a strange, quiet relief. That is not revenge. That is the invisible scale of justice that Michael is adjusting on your behalf. There were people who mocked your faith in what they called the supernatural. But what they don't understand is, faith is not blindness. Faith is choosing to trust what's right, even when all evidence tells you to give up. Archangel Michael works in silence. He doesn't need to prove himself. He simply acts. And if you feel something inside you, however fragile, beginning to awaken, know this. It is not a coincidence. It is a part of you, being returned after years of being stolen. Maybe you don't hear Michael's voice with your ears, but you hear it with your heart. Every time you walk away from a place that no longer feels like home, every time you say no to something that once silenced you, every time you lift your head while your tears still haven't dried, that is when he stands behind you, saying nothing, just placing his hand on your shoulder to remind you, you are never fighting alone. There are things that cannot be explained, only felt. And if your soul is beginning to tremble, then maybe it's time not just to listen, but to respond. Because the light doesn't just come to you, it's waiting to be called through a sacred ritual. Simple, but powerful. You've come a long way to realize not every battle must be won with a sword. Some battles require only that you dare to stand still and believe. Believe that the light is strong enough to protect you, even when you no longer have the strength to protect yourself. And if you feel you need something now, a sacred anchor, a small ritual to hold the light in your hands, then maybe this is that moment. Begin with stillness. Because Michael doesn't arrive when you scream. He comes when your soul begins to whisper. When the sun sets, that's when the veil between worlds softens and the voice from your heart can travel the farthest. Find a quiet space. Place a white candle in front of you, not because it's beautiful, but because white is the color of light, of protection, of angels. Light it with your full intention, no rush, no routine. And then speak his name, Michael, Michael, Michael. 3 times, as if opening 3 gates, one for truth, one for justice, and one for light. Then speak what you need to be protected from. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Your soul only needs to name it honestly. For example, Michael, please protect my heart from what no longer belongs to me. Michael, please release me from the energetic ties that are draining my soul. Michael, please remove the curses that have clung to me through bloodline and memory. And if there is still a name in your heart, someone you suspect is sending you dark energy or holding on to you through the past, write their name on a small piece of paper. Not to curse, not to retaliate, but to return them to the light. Burn the paper, and as it turns to ash, whisper, I release you. I return you to the light where every soul can begin to heal. Burning is not destruction. It is liberation. Liberation for them and for you. You might feel tears fall, you might feel your heart grow lighter, or you might feel nothing at all. But trust, what is happening is not on the level of sensation. It is happening in the realm of soul, where light is quietly returning through layers of long-held shadow. When the ritual is complete, place your hand over your heart and affirm, not as words, but as a declaration to the universe. I am protected. I am seen. I am not alone. You do not need to see angel wings to know he is real. You only need to pay attention. Maybe it's a strange dream, where a stranger reaches for your hand in the middle of a flood. Maybe it's a moment when you are shaking, and suddenly the wind stops. Maybe it's an invisible voice in your heart whispering, don't go back. Don't brush it off. Don't call it coincidence. Don't doubt your heart when it's speaking the language of the divine. That is when the angel's wing touches your shoulder, not to pull you away, but to remind you, you were never walking alone, and the light, it never left you. And if you've done this ritual, even if only in your heart, even if no words were spoken, then you've already stepped through an invisible gate. No one may see your transformation, but the divine does. Now perhaps you only need one last thing, a final whisper, like the breath of the soul as it returns home to itself. And I'll leave that here in these last lines. If you've stayed with me until this very moment, then please know this. You have done what so many still hesitate to do. You dared to pause, to listen, to turn inward, without applause, without spotlight, only a deep breath and a quiet heart that softly says, I am here, fully, needing nothing more to prove. I don't know who you are, where you live, or what burdens you carry. But if these words have reached you, then I believe a part of your soul has just awakened. A part of your light has just found its way back. And if you felt the presence of Archangel Michael, even for just a moment, a dream, a chill with no explanation, don't dismiss it. Let your heart open, because light only enters where it is welcomed. Thank you, from me and from your soul. Thank you for staying until these very last lines. Thank you for the courage to face what others are still running from. Thank you for choosing the light, even after being submerged in the dark for so long. And if you feel that something inside you has shifted, even just a little, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with a friend, a silent soul who might need this. It could be the first thread of their healing. And if you feel called to, leave one sentence in the comments, a mark on your own path. I'm still here, and I'm beginning again with the truth. You don't have to know every next step. You only have to believe this. The light never goes out in the one who refuses to give up. And you are one of the rare few still carrying that light.